going to finish out here in the next hour, but I've got something I'm so excited to share with you. Something I had one of our people, I'm going to tell the story here. Take your seats. Come on in. Kobe. All right, everybody take your seats. Come on in. So when we started Be Wealthy, and I could tell this story now because he knows the story, but for years he didn't know. And we could only have 10 people in the room. And so we had one room for agents and one room for investors at the time. And so the conversation, for a long time, we kept our rooms separate. I don't know if you guys remember, if they've been in this a while. And we had a request that could we put the rooms together. And I was scared because the investors were more aggressive, more crazy, my kind of crazy. And I was worried that, like, where's Seth? Is Seth leave already? Seth leave? I was worried Seth was going to run over everyone. And we put them together and everybody loved it. But the first meeting, I go there, it's at Wild Horse Pass, it's in COVID, and we walk in and our presenter was sitting in the room. And he's not supposed to be in the room. It's an investor room. He's in the lending business. I'm like, Caitlin, can I borrow you outside for just a second? I go, what is he doing in here? She goes, he's supposed to be here. He's on your list. Let me see that Excel spreadsheet. Well, it's just we're one cell off. So there were 3 Zoom calls and 3 books that you had to read to be in the room that day so that you had the base understanding so you could have the conversation. I'm like, what am I going to do? He is going to be so lost for 2 days. And she's like, what do we do now? I go, well, we have to leave him. I mean, we just got to let it go. So I teach for 2 days on seller financing. And and I saw his eyes for like this he's like, I've never seen any of this. I'm like, well, of course you haven't, because there was a lot of work to get there. Fast forward, we're now 4 years later. That mistake led him to, he's done incredible things in the note business. He's innovating it. You'll see all of his stats in a minute. And it's been the best absolute mistake we've ever made. And I say that lovingly because it's so cool. So give a warm Be Wealthy welcome to Mr. Ryan Mandley. Where'd you go? There, were you sitting out there the whole time? Yeah. I thought you were back here. I couldn't even see you. I was like,
how's it going?
So that story, very real.
Yeah.
And you were like, I got to be a part of this, and you didn't even know what we're doing. But let's throw our slideshow on. We're going to talk. Ryan and I are going to do this together. And you have been a lender for how long?
Since 2001, off and on, so quite a while.
Quite a while. And prior to, and you could sit in the chair, you could stand, whatever you feel comfortable with. So prior to this, though, you weren't in the investment side. You were not doing notes. You were not flipping homes. You were definitely not doing a bunch of deals in a rural area that's about 3.5 hours away from here.
Absolutely not. So, little history. Grew up in a very small town, Kingman, Arizona, from not very wealthy family, middle class family. So, mom stayed at home, dad worked, that kind of thing. So, went off to college. Mom worked the whole time to put me through school, all that kind of stuff. So, coming out of college, was in the IT business for a little bit. And then somehow fell into the mortgage space in about 2001. So
cool. So you, prior to, and I'm going back, this was like April 2020.
Yep.
From now until then, tell them a little bit about that journey before we go through the detailed information.
Yeah, so I was doing loans for a while, starting to make decent money. I'd been through several different types of coaching platforms, so I was in the Tom Ferry organization for a little bit, and just wasn't learning a whole lot through those kind of platforms. Kind of struggling through some coaching, trying to figure out where my place was as far as mentors and those type of things go. So what was it probably, when did we first start talking?
Like 2019, maybe, 18, yeah, a couple years before that mastermind.
Okay. So yeah, 2019, I've gone through a couple different coaches, Tom Ferry. I remember some of the last ones that I was speaking with, I felt like I'm just sitting there and like talking to them, and I felt like they're just writing every single thing down that I'm telling them, and they're regurgitating it to all the other clients. So I'm like, man, I'm paying all this money, and I don't really feel like I'm getting a whole lot out of it. So I'm going to get out of this coaching thing for a little bit. I'm going to go out independent and kind of figure out things on my own and kind of see what happens. And a good friend of ours, Scott Lander, right?
Yeah, Brother Lander.
So he approached me. He's like, hey, I know you've kind of been in and out of coaching for a while, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but Brett's done some really, really good things for my business, and he has an opening. So if you have any thought of joining him or entertaining that, I'd definitely set up a call with him and hear what he has to say. And I think you'll be pretty impressed. So he told me the price tag at that time. I think it was about
30-ish, something like that back then?
Something like that.
Maybe less.
So, I was married at the time, and so I went home and talked to my wife about this new venture that I was going to do and spend about, $30,000 a year. And as you can imagine, that didn't go over too well. So she's like, well, you tried these other programs, they're, been spending $500 to $1,000 a month. You told me last time you're not getting a lot of information out of it. What's going to be different this guy, So I was like, well, I trust my buddy Scott. I've seen him do some really great things in his business. And I'm just going to really go ahead and take that leap and go for it. And she challenged me pretty heavily. She's like, that's our mortgage payment, right? So I was like, well, yeah. She's like, and she's from like a corporate banking world. So she's like, she don't really understand, like the need for the push and the motivation and to have someone to educate you and lead you along the way. She's got all the training in corporate sales and all that kind of stuff. So I went ahead and took the leap. Needless to say, I'm not married anymore. But
And thank goodness I was a huge part of that.
Yeah.
No, I had nothing to do with that. So you show up. This is the room that day. I had them read this book. Had everybody come in. You had to be able to work every calculation on inside of Invest in Debt backwards in a 10 BIA calculator. Yep. We talked about there's 3 ways to invest in notes. Again, everyone had read this. Everyone had done the 2 Zooms. And Ryan's like, I have no idea what notes. I'm like, Ryan's kind of like Eddie. Like I thought a loan was being a loan. You're kind of in that,
yeah.
not in the space that you're in day to day, in the private origination space.
Yep.
So you went out, you took this and our whole deal hierarchy here, and you flipped it on its head. Tell us about how you started thinking about it, because you didn't have access. What I love about your story, you didn't have access to deal flow directly.
No.
Right? Real estate agents, they got a rental, they've got better access.
Yep.
You come from a lending background. You picked this up and ran with this faster than anybody. Why do you think that is?
Right. So 2020, 2021, we started making tons of cash in the mortgage business. We had the cool 7-figure W-2s, but they are W-2s. So, half of the money we're making, we're going straight out the door, and there's nothing we could really do about it. So I paid off all of my bad debt, and I started stacking up some cash, and I said, Brett, what should I start doing? And he's like, well, go ahead and send out some mailers, right? So, well, first we actually bought a note on Notes Direct from Eddie's platform that we walked through the process. It's a home in Michigan that I still have the note on, and it's performing, which is cool. And then second, he's like, go ahead and send out some mailers. So I'm like, all right, let's pull some data on some manufactured homes, some land, and some different, anything under $150,000, that'd be a good potential note. So started sending mailers out there, and then started getting phone calls.
Let's go back to that first note. So the first thing he did, he's like, I want to get in the note space. I'm like, well, we got to get one. We got to do some shopping. So we went on Notes Direct. We looked at everything. We picked a non-judicial foreclosure state. So foreclosure was inexpensive. We could do it quickly. We wanted a note with a long pay history. And my goal on your first note is not to optimize for yield and return. My goal is to optimize for paying. I want someone that pays, and if they don't pay, you're going to be so excited that they didn't pay. It's going to be a great deal.
Right.
And so that note you bought, whatever it is, 6 years, 7 years ago, still paying.
Yep.
It got into foreclosure once.
Yep.
And it started getting late, and I look at them, I go, hey, don't let them get late. We've got to now file foreclosure. Like, you've got to let them know that you're the one that they have to pay.
Yep.
They bounce back in current. You still got that note in your portfolio.
Still going, yep.
And you bought that at probably, a 10, 11 yield, or what was the yield on that?
I think it was 10.99 interest. I think it was like a 12, 13 yield. I think it had cost about $45,000, had a $55,000 balance, and it was worth about $85,000 at the time.
Now, here's what's funny. Watch this. Would you ever buy that right now?
No.
12, 13 yield, now because now he's getting 30% yields, and so he's like, oh, that's a piece of garbage. And he's going to show you exactly what he's doing.
Yep.
So your goal, when you look at the deal hierarchy, you looked at all this. Here's your deal hierarchy. Walk them through that and why your goal is just to create debt.
Yep, so everything we're looking at, obviously we're going to run the numbers and say, all right, how deep can we get this? Anything under $150K, usually makes sense, and how much down payment we think you get on this property, and is it something that we want to keep or turn into a note? But, our number one disposition strategies are going to be throw it out as wholesale, and then second would be owner carry, and then we're going to go through, wholesaling. If we're going to flip something, we're going to do the 3X, the assignment fee rule, but we're not seeing too much of that out there. We're getting pretty large assignments in what we're doing. We're averaging around $20,000 in assignment fee right now. So most of our stuff we're assigning or turning straight into note creation, and then some of the stuff we're doing equitable interest listings or traditional listings on the MLS.
And when you started doing notes, you're here in the Valley, you're in Scottsdale.
Yep.
And your notes, when you started marketing, were back in Kingman, which is 2 hours, 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
Why did you go there instead of here?
Because of the price points and kind of what I knew. I had boots on the ground, I was familiar with the area, and I grew up there. And obviously you could buy stuff for 20, 40, 50 grand. So you can't really do that here too much.
And so you could have jumped in, right? Like you could have done the typical landlord thing and you decided to just go all in on notes.
Yep.
What made you decide that versus being a lean lord? By the way, is that Caitlin? Is she in here? No. Lean lord, is that your term or is
I
that?
like that term. It's been out there. It's just not used very much, and a lot of people don't know about it. So I'm starting to push it out there more through our social channels and podcasts and stuff. So I just think it's a cool term.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so then you created the greatest marketing name ever, Stop Crying, Call Ryan.
Yep.
Which I kind of wish that I had that because we might just put it out there anyway, even though I'm not Ryan.
Yeah.
So walk them through your lead generation strategy. The first thing you got to do is you got to get a bunch of leads.
Yeah, so we were pulling data through title companies, PropStream, and through a bunch of different filters, and I can share with you guys those kind of later. And then I started dumping mailers, and then I kind of created a approach to where I'm going to hammer the area with multiple different avenues. So I created the brand Stop Crying, Call Ryan, and we started putting out bandit signs. You'd see the old, sell your home for cash bandit signs, but who's going to remember that number if you don't take a picture of it or something, right? So I wanted to create something where you can see it once to remember it. I've Stop Crying, Call Ryan, the website, so now you can look at it and find me online and fill out our lead form and intake those leads. So we're mailing to areas, we're using bandit signs around the same areas, and then we're pulling the data and skip tracing and calling on top of our mail areas.
How many pieces of mail are you dropping a month now, on average?
3,000 a month or so.
3,000 a month, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you got the lead.
Yep.
Hey, what else are you doing?
So we started out doing that. Obviously, we're going to go with the least expensive lead generation, we started with about 1,000 mail pieces, bandit signs, and we started cold calling with our acquisition guys and VAs. And then now we went and are using more like pay per lead channels. So we use FHO and property seller leads. And then I had another website built out like SEO optimized where we were running a lot of our own pay-per-click stuff, but we found out that it's cheaper to let someone else do it for you. And then they have the kind of money-back guarantee within 7 days if it's a non-valid lead. If you hammer the lead correctly, they'll refund it for you. So on both the pay-per-lead sites that we're using, we kind of play with our bid, our bid price. So we're never the highest bidder. And what we've kind of found out is like targeting several different areas and then leaving on a lower bid, and then the higher bidders max their budget like halfway through the month, and then towards the end of the month we start getting a lot of our leads, and we usually hit all of our max expenditures.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I want to go to your secret sauce, which is where we're going to. So you got a deal, and what I think is so innovative is the way you're selling deals and making it happen. So kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so we started out, building our buyer list like everyone else does, grabbing people off of Facebook and putting them into like MailChimp and sending out those mail, blasts and all that stuff, and then calling people and pulling lists on PropStream and those kind of things. And it was kind of sort of working, but I feel like we're playing more in a rural space, so we had to get more creative in that. So we started pushing all of our stuff out on Craigslist and Facebook, and that's where we're dispositioning a lot of our stuff now. So we have a couple distribution channels. We do move stuff here locally and in other cities. So we do have Investor Lift that we push stuff out on wholesale price, and we'll put our stuff out at wholesale price on MailChimp to our buyer list. But we're listing stuff on more of a retail price that we can capture notes on Facebook and Craigslist. So how we kind of figured that out was we're putting these properties out on Facebook Marketplace, and everyone's just like, hey, can you do owner carry on this? Can you do owner carry on this? And we're like, we can, but not this price, right? So it's like at 70, we'll do owner carry at 100. Some people are like a little confused, but they're still in the game. But now we're just pushing it out at that higher price, offering owner carry terms, and we're moving a lot of stuff that way. And we're still attracting cash buyers that are offering us a little bit lower, and obviously we're in it pretty deep. So I showed, if you want to flip to the next one. Obviously, I just learned today from Eddie that I'm a cowboy note creator. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
You are, and Eddie, when we got on a call, we're on our coaching call, and he goes, dude, I'm wholesaling and creating debt. I'm getting paid to create the debt, and I never own it. And I go, I don't even understand what you're talking about. So break that down. So buckle up for the next like 20 minutes, because this is had you ever seen this before, Eddie? So I had not seen someone do this, and I think it is so cool.
So we're using all the terms Eddie says not to use. No bank qualification needed. Owner will carry with 20K down. So
But you're still getting big down payments. I mean, you're still getting, what's your average down payment you think is a percentage?
huge. I mean, our probably average sales price is, I don't know, 80, 90, and I'm usually getting 20. I think the least I've taken is 10, like $1,000 down.
Yeah, but you're getting like more or less 20%.
25, 30
yeah,
more,
more
down. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, yeah, the max. So
you lock up a deal. So you go out, you got a deal under contract.
Yep.
Okay, now walk us through this.
Get a deal under contract, and we're going to pump it out Investor Lift, MailChimp, and then we're putting it on Craigslist. And so we'll list in all of the locations, obviously in the county or city that's at, and then other major cities around that area, which is attracting a lot of attention. And then on Facebook Marketplace, we'll list it as a listing, and then in that location. And then what we're doing is we're joining all of the buy-sell trade groups, the yard sale groups, the Craigslist groups in those areas in the surrounding cities. So for example, like the Phoenix buy-sell trade group here has 100,000 people in it. So each time you put a post into Facebook Marketplace, you can share it into 20 groups at a time. So if I'm sharing it into a 100,000 group and a 50,000 person group, all of a sudden I'm exposing my property to a few 100,000 people for free. And they're all looking for stuff like this, and then I'll share it. So like if I'm doing in Kingman, I'll share in Vegas, I'll share in Phoenix. So I'm just joining all these groups, and by joining all these groups, when you start sharing, your DMs just start exploding with people like asking a million questions, making offers, wanting to see it. And then that's when you really need to have someone monitoring that and quantifying the buyer and figure out if they're legit or not. So
okay. So now our DMs are exploding.
Yep, exploding for real. And so they ask a million questions. So like a lot of stupid questions like, oh, is this still available? So we've learned things like put in your post, say, hey, if this post is still up, this property is still available, to eliminate some of those dumb questions. A lot of them will ask for the address, which you'll just have to send to them. And then they'll start asking for, terms, make offers, those type of things. And since we're trying to assign into note creation, we don't actually own the property. If they want to see it, we're going to send them a link with all of our pictures on it and say, hey, here's a list of all the pictures. Make sure you look at them all. Make sure it's something that you want. And then if you want to get in the property, I'm going to see proof of funds for your down payment or your cash and an ID, just to make sure they're legit. Sometimes they'll do a little pushback like, oh, you're a scam or this and that. I'm like, hey, here's my title company information. You can send it to our title company. They're going to handle all the dollar transfers, and they can validate that we're legit. And so that usually works.
Cool. All right.
And so to save time, we make an active live sheet. So this has a list of all of our properties that are available, and we keep it updated with all of our links and everything. And so whenever we're getting asked all the questions in the DMs, or our investors asking what inventory we have available, we just text them this live Google sheet that has all of our inventory at all times. So now there's hundreds of investors that have our live sheet with all of our active properties that are ever changing. They can have a chance to jump in and grab or see whatever's available. So
who's managing all the DMs right now? Is that you and your team, or have you leveraged that to like a VA yet or something like that?
VA's in there doing it. It just has to do all those stupid passcode things all the time, which I'm still trying to figure out. But he's in there answering a lot of it. I'm still on there. But now I've got my acquisition people joining those groups too, and they're sharing in there. So there's multiple people selling the property in those different groups, and so it's kind of a race or contest now. Every time we get one out, it's like, hey, I got someone, because I bonus for extra, for a disposition fee if they sell it themselves. Okay. So everyone's trying to work to, move those properties.
Okay. So let's talk about buying time for it. Or you want to go back here?
Yeah, buy time. So a lot of people are like, oh, how do you give yourself time to create notes? And, most people want their house closed in like 10 days and all this stuff, but we're super transparent with our sellers. We get a timeline that works for them, and, we really try to hit it. But in our contracts, we have a lot of leeway. So we set our close of escrow date at on or before 60 days. And then it has an auto renewal clause, and that's once to be canceled by the buyer, which should be us, obviously. And then our inspection period mirrors our close of escrow date, so it just is an ongoing contract forever unless we cancel it or sell it or they want out of it, which they rarely do, So it would be like, hey, dude, we're trying to move this for you, but it might be locked up a little too high. If you want a cash price, I'll close on this tomorrow, but I know you're trying to get this. We can keep trying to hit this number for you, but if we can't, then here's your cash price, and then they're usually cool with it. Like, we have very few cancel.
Okay. Let's walk through a deal.
Okay.
Walk us through this deal.
So here's one. This one came to us actually as a direct mail lead. This guy wanted us to make an offer on his house. He had like a 4-bedroom home, and he wanted a cash offer, and I looked at it, and he bought it like a year ago. So I was like, there's no equity in this. I can refer you to one of our agent partners who can list it and sell it. And so I did that, and he's like, well, I really want to move into one of your lots that you have available, which he's taken 4 kids out of his house, and he's going to move out on an acre land in the middle of the desert that has like water haul and some other fun stuff. So we got a referral fee for, having that home listed, and then we sold him this property, and we assigned it to him. Essentially, we didn't even close on it. So this one we sold for $22,421. I had to kick in like $900 on this deal to cover some of his closing costs. The note we created was at 1095 or 120 months, which spits off $305 a month. So we locked it up for $2,500. I paid the team member $1,500 cash to close. So I was in it for $2,400 total. So that's 152% cash on cash return. And recoup my money in 8 payments, going to spit off, almost $35,000 over the next 112 months. So,
Parker, have you got here? I'll give you this real quick.
Yep.
Here, wait. Let me trade me.
Signing these instead of like we do buying and reselling. I'm just trying to understand the parties and the paperwork and stuff.
So I'm just offering owner carry terms on my property that I have out for assignment instead of closing on it. And if I secure someone that wants owner financing, I have another slide where I'll show you my assignment agreement that has the owner carry terms in it. So we're assigning it and then capturing the note at the same time, essentially.
So how does that work with because on assignment, as far as I understand them, you're assigning the terms that's in the initial purchase and sale agreement. So if the initial purchase and sale agreement is a cash deal, where are the installment terms coming into play?
We have additional terms on our assignment agreement that we can add and change
It's like an addendum
Yep.
or so?
Yep.
So if you're doing these, I know you said you do them on like lower purchase price houses. How often are you running in a scenario where you've got to throw in cash because the down payment you're getting from the new end buyer is not covering the cash price that you
Majority of the time, like this one, I had to kick in what was it?
$900.
$900, but that's pretty much free, right? So
Yes. He just needed help with
I
closing.
had to finance some of his closing costs. He only had a little bit to put down in this instance. Yeah, he didn't have much money to put down, so I had to help finance and cover some. We financed some of his closing costs, and we had to come out of pocket for a little bit of it. And then I had to pay my acquisition guy. And then that instruction letter, my title company recommended that I put in there just because we bought it for $2,500 and we sold it for $2,000 or $23,000, and there's not a property on there technically. So there's not much room to improve it unless they're saying they're going to add value to the property by putting a manufactured home on it, which that was their plan at some point. So that's just another thing to cover my back. So partnering with a title company that knows what they're doing in these situations, that is always looking out for your back, is huge.
Last thing. So if I'm your acquisitions guy and I'm used to locking up cash deals for you to wholesale, and then you're like, hey, we're going to start assigning these deals on terms.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier that there's the cash price is lower,
Yep.
or there's this option that's higher. Like if I'm trying to think how to tweak my calculator to give my acquisitions team, how much more are you paying for a deal like this to be able to try and dispo it on terms?
On like a smaller note like this, it's like a $1,500 bonus. I think if it's over like a $30,000 note, I'll pay a flat $2,500 bonus
to the seller, sorry, not the agent. Like how much more are you paying to the seller for their house for you to have the ability to assign it on terms like this?
Nothing.
Versus like they want cash.
It's my normal
It's the
cash
same
lockup.
price.
Yeah.
He's
cash
paying the same
lockup.
price there. Here, stick with this next example and answer your question.
Yeah.
Stay right there. All right, so let's go through this one.
So this one this is a funny story. This prison Mike guy. So it was him and his brother. And
Prison Mike truly in prison?
yeah, so he wasn't in prison when we contracted on the property. He ended up putting in jail. And so our acquisition guy had to set up these video conferences with the guy, and he had probably like 20 video conferences with this seller in jail. So he's in stripes and he's doing all this stuff. And so our contract stated the seller to net $10,000. That's how we wrote up our purchase agreement, not a purchase price, because there's some liens and stuff on there that we're gonna have to pay off. So then the guards got in there and they're like, hey, you shouldn't sell these guys for $10,000. They're ripping you off and blah, blah, blah. So about $1,000 in FedEx fees from my title companies later and like 10 different video calls, he finally understood he's netting $10,000 and his sales price is not $10,000. So then we thought we were gonna have to bail the guy out. And so to get the deal done, we were gonna have to wire $6,000 into bail, but we're gonna do it at recordation. So it was gonna come straight back to me out of his proceeds, but he did something last minute that put him back in jail for like 2 years. I have a video on my phone that we made like a remix of, and he's like, my guy's telling him, dude, we're about to get you out of here. It's gonna be so good. And he's like, yes. He's like fist pumping. He's super excited. And then we did a couple teleconference video calls from our title company, and he fell in love with our escrow officer, Tracy. So he somehow had her address from the FedEx people who were going there. And so as soon as he got back in jail, he just started writing her all these postcards and like drawing all this crazy.
Is that the next picture?
Love work art. But yeah, I'll go with, yeah, we can show that really quick.
Whoa.
So like Tracy's her name, like, I love you, Tracy. And I was like, I thought she just got
What a
like
lucky girl.
1 or 2, but she has a stack like this thick of them. So it's a super interesting story.
Yeah.
But if we go back to the deal here. We sold this one.
What did you lock it up for? What was your purchase price?
It was $10,000 net to the seller, and we didn't know exactly what
What did it end up being at the end? Were the liens above that?
So it breaks it down here. So we sold it for $45,000. We took a down payment of $19,600, and then we financed $15,400 at 1095 or 60 months. It spits out $334 a month. So that down payment washed all the debt plus whatever we had to pay minus, that was pretty much, we got that one for free. So I just had to pay the acquisition guy $2,000, it looks like. So yeah, 200% cash on cash return on that deal.
So you never actually closed. The closing was
It's signed into no
signed
creation
into no creation.
for a normal buyer that pulled money out of their 401k for their down payment.
Okay. And on a seller who's
The
in prison.
seller that's in prison, yeah, that's still in there.
Now walk us through this little gem here.
This one was cool. I got this on a bandit sign call. I was the acquisition specialist. I took the lead call on this one. I locked it up at 40 and then cleaned it out. It was already semi-remodeled, but I closed on this one and then I listed on the MLS. And then let me see what I sold it for. I sold it for $102,000 with $40,000 down. So I captured a $62,000 note at 9.95% over a 360-month term, so that spits off $541 a month. So I locked it up, $40,000 down, and then about $9,000 in clean out, and then paying agent fees on both sides. So $9,000 into that deal, 72% cash on cash return. It's going to make me $186,000 over 344 months. But the kicker on this one is she was like a month or 2 behind, and so if people fall a little behind, I'll communicate with them and say, hey, what's up with your deal? You're not paying. What's the issue? And she's like, oh, I got all this money coming, and I'm like, from where? And she's like, well, I have this house.
Prison Mike.
No, from Prison Mike's gonna wire. She's like, no, I got this house in Scottsdale that's tied up in this legal issue that I need to sell it, and can you help me do that? I'm like, yeah. So she's like, can you talk to my attorney? So I talked to the attorney. I was like, let me go look at this place, and it's in a really good zip code off Cactus in the 101. So I go out there, I was like, can I get in it? And they're like, yeah. So normal drug addict person living in there and drinking problem, it's pretty tore up. But I gave him a pretty lowball price to the attorney, and he's like, oh, that's great. Like, everyone's gonna be super happy with this. And I said, okay. So contracted on that one. I signed it immediately for a $60,000 assignment fee. And then, so that got split up within a few of the family members. So my note holder got, I don't know, $60,000 or something. And then she was gonna pay off the whole remainder of the debt, but she's like, oh, I need some of the money. But she paid me down another $20,000 on that deal.
What did you lock this up for? What was the amount?
40. So that bandit's I called
40, and then you take 40 down. So you're $9,000 in, creating a note that pays you $541.
And I got $60,000 assignment fee referral, and then another $20,000 down. So that was a 6-figure bandit sign call for sure.
All right, give us another case study. What's this? What's going on here?
Here's another one we got, online lead. We locked it up for $20,000. It's on like 2 acres with, has like a jacked up trailer on it and like a little single family guest house that's in poor condition. So we threw it out there on Facebook like we normally do. Sold it for $42,900. We signed it into note creation again. Without closing on it, we took 20 grand down. So the terms on that one were 22.9 at 10.95 or 72 months, which is spin out 435 a month for the next 72 months. So $20,000 acquisition price plus acquisition fee to the team. Again, I zeroed out my acquisition price, and the only thing I had to pay was my acquisition guy of $2,500. So 208% cash on cash return.
But you're not, the most amazing part of what I think you're doing here is that you're not closing until you have everything locked. You've already packaged up your deal. And you already know that it's not closed. You've got all the parts arranged, and then you're creating these kinds of returns, and you know that before you close.
Yeah, so just to contract with us in our assignment, it's $5,000 non-refundable earnest deposit. So they're serious if they're gonna do business with us and lock the property up.
You get them Dodd-Frank compliant too? You get them running through?
You asked it through the...
Yep, if it's like these ones are land, but if it is primary and they're occupied as a primary, we'll run it through the third-party RMLO. But I was talking to Eddie. I am a RMLO, so I probably should start taking my own 1003s and reviewing the applications myself and putting all that paperwork in the file, and I don't see why I shouldn't be able to do that.
I'll pause here before we go. Those are case studies, then we'll go to the rest of this, but go ahead, Kobe.
Have you ever thought to have less cash out of pocket and create golden handcuffs, take the $2,500 and pay your acquisition fee? Like, tell them, hey, instead of $2,500, when I do a note creation, you'll get paid $2,500, but over a course of X amount of time, which creates golden handcuffs and kind of ties them in, makes them feel like they're partnering in the deal and they're in the deal?
I've offered them, hey, do you want your $2,500 or you want to go in on this note with me? And most of them are, just give me my $2,500. I'm like, all right, well.
Interesting.
But I'm educating them on the option to start getting in on these deals with me.
What happened with, you guys offered that with rentals and notes? You guys offered that, Brett, with rentals and notes a while ago, and then I feel like Joe maybe got a little away from that, got a little messy.
It's harder. Like, it's just harder to calculate. I think there's better structures to incentivize your team that we could talk about. Maybe I'll draw at the end or offline. But yeah, I mean, if you want to let them participate, that's your call. What I think is just so interesting is you've got the outs that you have available, Ryan, in the way you're doing this. The other option is you go close, you do all the things that bandit sign in the yard, and you go, and like Eddie's point, private, great house for deserving buyer with large down payment. But you're trying to do all that before you close. So let's look at your portfolio today, what you've been able to do so far.
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, I've captured 14 nodes, spits off $83.40 a month. I've created almost $650,000 in debt with under $200,000 of my own capital. So pretty good return on that stuff. But it's getting better now that we're assigning it to note creation and not closing on stuff. So, and then in our contract also, it allows us to market on the MLS if we want to as well. So we're starting to leverage the MLS via equitable interest listing, and we're starting to move a lot of stuff that way. So it rolls in this kind of our 3-step offer process. So I think there's a lot of money that wholesalers are leaving on the table because they're just like, bang, here's your cash offer, and that's it. But if it don't work for you because it's a nicer house, maybe it's just a little outdated, they know it's worth more money, and they're just like, sellers are getting more educated. And now with like all the NAR rules and stuff where people aren't wanting to pay buy-side commissions, I'm like, fine, well, here's our cash offer. I know you want to get this, and I know it's worth this. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can get you this, but we're going to need to put it on the MLS, but we're not going to charge you any closing costs, no realtor fees, no commissions. We're not going to put a sign in the yard. We'll put a lockbox on there maybe, and then we're throwing on the MLS so aggressively priced, it's starting like a shit show of calls from agents, and so we'll line up a bunch of them and we'll say, hey, dude, this is cash hard money, or if it's in good condition, you can take conventional financing on it, but I don't really want to deal with that. I'd rather do cash or hard money, so I'm going to take those offers first. But I'll line up like 5 sets of buyers at the same time and just jam them all through, and it creates a bunch of competition. So usually triggers an offer out of that first or second showing by doing that. And then we're able to get our agent fees, and then we're able to capture the middle ground in the assignment fee. So in that instance, we're double closing. So, easy cash close, my investment business makes the assignment fee, and then Ryan, the agent, gets his realtor fees.
Walk us through this one.
So this is a cool one we did an equitable interest listing with. It's a higher end property here in Tempe. It was an online FHO lead. They're hell bent on getting 1.4. We knew the ARV was there. It's a big property. It's over 5,000 square feet. It's got like a 13-car garage. It's got like a pool with a grotto, like basement, theater room, bar, like all this really cool stuff. But it was just full of stuff. And it was a divorce situation. The husband was like a major pill popper. Like go in his house, I've never seen so many pill bottles, like probably 100, no joke, sitting there. So, and then seeing him, he's just like sweating and shaking and all that stuff. And I think he had a gambling problem, some other stuff. So they're getting divorced. There's tons and tons of stuff. The guy had that badass garage was full of like 13 like really nice vehicles, all this stuff. But anyways, we locked it up at 1.4. And we started pumping out to all our investors, and they're all coming in at like 1.1, 1.2. So we're like, all right, we're gonna have to go equitable interest listing on this one. So listed on the market, and it just exploded with agents calling us. So we're like, all right, we knew we priced it well. So in this instance, we, like I said, jammed like 8 buyers through in one day, triggered a full price offer immediately. Closed on this one at 155.50. I paid out a 2.5% co-broke to the buyer agent. I took 2.5% internally, and I snagged a $25,000 assignment fee in the middle of there. And so that was about $58,000 on that deal. But we thought we were going to hit a home run. It was set up originally at like, I was going to make about $125,000 spread on it, but they beat me up on the roof. We had to replace the roof. I had to give them like a big roof credit and some other credit, but whatever. Still worked out, but it wasn't a 6-figure assignment. But funny story in this one too, like we have the craziest sellers and they love us. They'll write us reviews and do all this other stuff. So this guy has got divorced. He's super pumped. He obviously likes to do drugs and party. And so the house was paid off. And so they got whatever, 700 some K each. So that guy goes out and buys this like Mercedes Sprinter van and gets all dialed in. He calls my acquisition guy. He's like, hey dude, he's like, I just bought a ton of Coke and I'm gonna go on a hooker rampage. So you can come along with me if you want to, but this is where I'm going. But my acquisition guy is married, so he declined.
Missed out on the opportunity of a lifetime.
So, but yeah, I mean, I thought we were gonna hit 100. I was telling you when I first got this deal, I was like, we're gonna get like a 6-figure assignment or deal on this one, but still good.
Cool. All right, if you guys want to reach out to Ryan, here's Ryan's info. We'll go to Q&A. Any questions for Ryan? I just thought what he was doing on the assignment to seller financing was so unique, so different.
So cool. Hey.
Parker, would you do me a favor and toss that to Isabel so we can all hear?
So I noticed you have a bunch of land deals. Can you speak to how you lead generate for land deals, where you're looking to land in terms of like purchase price to ARV, and then how you structure them into notes at the back end?
So we're running comps on MLS if we have it, and then Realtor.com. So we're just looking at what the lowest sales are in the area, and we're just trying to lock it up at 20, 30 cents on the dollar below that if possible. So I mean we shoot super low. So I mean around that area, I mean we're trying to pay, if it's raw land, $500 to $1,000 an acre. If it's got, you gotta start asking questions like, does it have utilities, does it have septic, does it have water? If it has those 3 things, if you can lock up like an acre plus that's got septic, utilities, and water on it, there's a huge demand for owner carry on that stuff because there's so many people out there that want to just move out there, park their RV, and live dirt cheap. So versus paying for like park rent, they can just actually go out there and live. So it just depends on the property, but I mean, and we're just pushing as hard as we can on the seller to figure out what they want on it.
Are you mailing them?
We mail, those ones we're mailing and calling, yep.
What are your mailing criteria?
We pull, so we usually do like 5, 10 plus years ownership. I like 100% equity position if possible. I'm trying to think what else we have on there. I mean, if it's manufactured, we'll do Obviously on lots, we'll do like 6,000 square foot lot or greater. Trying to think what else we put on there for looking at land. I'll usually put under 40-acre parcels.
Are you mailing them an offer or another piece?
No, just like Crying Ryan, I've got a whole series of stuff that I made, so we're just mailing them that kind of stuff. That offers we found are too sporadic in those areas, so it's just too tough to jam an offer through. One could be worth $500, one could be worth $25,000, so it just depends.
There's one more thing I was going to ask you.
So
right.
just getting them to raise their hand. And then our guys are really good at like, oh, I don't want to sell this. Do you have anything else you want to sell? And that triggers a lot.
It was your response rate. How is your response rate different on mail for land versus?
Oh, good question.
It's
The question was, how's the response rate on
the
land
response
versus
rate. I mean, it's
on-
pretty similar, typical of all mail response rates. It's not much better. Yeah, it's not a lot better. But a lot of people are sitting on land that they just don't know what to do with. It's been there forever, or it got willed to them, or something. So we're just like, what are you gonna do with this thing? Are you happy paying the property taxes on it? Like, what's your plan? So just kind of push on them that way.
2 questions. Number one's about marketing. All your stuff is Stop Crying, Call Ryan. But then I see like on your shirt, for example, it says something about it's the Easy Cash.
Yeah. This is we rebranded. So I
I
mean,
thought that was like a Superman logo on it. Yeah.
Easy Cash Close is our investment company, and then
Yeah.
Stop Crying, Call Ryan's. It's another part of our brand that Easy Cash Close is the company for.
Gotcha.
So I have Stop Crying, Call Ryan, the website, and then it's Easy Cash Close.
Is there a reason why it's not just all Stop Crying, Call Ryan versus Easy Cash Close?
I mean, Easy Cash Close sounds more professional, I guess, if you're buying from people.
Got it. Okay.
That's your brand when you sell, as opposed to when you're having the consumer contact you, you're
The
Stop
lead
Crying,
generator
Call Ryan,
versus.
as opposed to when you're dealing with the end.
Well, I kind of want maybe a level of detachment. I don't know, Easy Cash Close, and
So does Easy Cash Close get under contract for a property? I'm sorry, does Stop Crying, Call Ryan LLC get under contract for a property and then Easy Cash Close dispose it?
no,
Or
Easy Cash Close all the way through.
all the way through?
Crying, Call Ryan's just kind of that brand.
It's just the marketing.
On the front end.
It's a marketing front end lead generator.
Yeah, just the
Cool.
saying to
Thank you.
connect to me.
My only other question is just like, and this is a question I don't know. So you have a lot of things going on. So you have your lender business, which is big and highly successful. You're a realtor, and you have your realtor team or business, and then you have like your investment company in business. How do you like figure out when you're like where to spend the amount of time? Because it seems like you're putting a lot of effort and time into this. Because I know creating the notes does take time. Is this where you're putting the most amount of time? Or are the other businesses just kind of running based off your organizational chart at this point? Or like how do you do it all?
It's kind of going where the money is, and at the moment, and I'm bringing people into my world, teaching them how to monetize client on multiple different kinds of levels. So it's like, I feel like the one-trick pony loan officer, the one-trick pony agent, they're gonna go out of business because they don't have solutions to offer all of their people. So it's like we're running them down a list of questions, and depending on what they're telling us, could be a refi lead, could be a purchase lead, could be a traditional sale, could be equitable interest listing, could be all these different things, could be a cash offer. So we're providing solutions to the people at a whole. So all of my people in our world now are learning to ask all these right questions, like bang, refi lead, bang, this is a listing, so it's just kicking stuff all over the place. And I'm just kind of trying to bring people in to take ownership and manage that process, and I'm just kind of reviewing at a high level. But it is a lot for me going at all the times, and I'm the one sitting there with my 10 BII calculator on fire all day long, spitting off owner carry terms because they don't really understand how to do those. But and just reviewing cash offer prices and those type of things. But yeah, it's a lot. And then Ella's are asking me questions, and I'm hiring and recruiting, and yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Awesome.
I feel like I'm a few key hires away from like really cranking it up.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. We got a question over there.
Dude, great job, by the way. That's awesome. How are you hiring the right people? That's kind of been my toughest thing in the past year and a half, is just getting the right people in place. Where are you finding good talent to pick up the call?
I mean, it's a challenge for everyone, I think, but I mean, I'm running ads on Indeed. I'm asking for referrals from other people that I trust. That's, the biggest things we do. I've got stuff you can put now hiring on LinkedIn. You just got getting people coming to you. Now that I'm putting out more content on social media through podcasts and things, more people are reaching out. Hey, are you hiring? Hey, are you hiring? I want to get involved in your world. And I just kind of ask, what do you have going on, So my ideal hire would be like a dually licensed agent and loan officer that I can show how to make money on both avenues, and then they can learn the investment business if they want to. And then I just hired a new admin TC dispo person that's licensed. So, and then a couple acquisition guys. I'm hiring loan officers and agents also. So
I guess the best way to ask that question is there something that they say in the interview or something in their track record that says, yeah, this guy's probably going to be pretty good because you've had other people that have had that same kind of track record or answered the questions similarly that they've been successful?
I mean, lately in our industry, it's so tough because so many people are falling out, and they're skilled people, they're skilled agents, and they're skilled LOs, but they just don't know how to generate their own business. So if you feel like they have good sales skills and they've had some sort of proven track record, but they're just having a hard time generating leads, those are the kind of people that I'm looking for to get in my world, and are willing to do whatever it takes. Like if you're not afraid to make calls, you're not afraid to door knock, you're not afraid to do whatever. Like that's kind of some of the things that we're looking for. Just aggressive salespeople as best as we can get.
And how many people do you have hired right now that work for you?
I think I have 4 loan officers. I've got a VA. I've got 2 agents on my retail team. I've got 2 dispo people, and then I've got a full-time content creator dude that's like running our podcast and doing video edits and other stuff. And he's doing like tag-in acquisition stuff now too.
Do you have an assistant, just like a personal assistant for yourself?
Well, she's now my assistant / licensed TC / she gets incentivized to
That's what I'm.
dispo bonus person. Yeah. So I know he says don't jam them all in one, but I'm doing the best.
Growing this all pretty quick.
Yeah, and then the VA is like he makes calls. He can lead generate, and then he creates some marketing for social stuff, and then he's kind of my assistant's assistant. So I'm pushing her to leverage him to his highest and best use, which I feel he's been underutilized, but he's really smart. So she's kind of on him now, tasking him, getting more reports from that guy. And once we get him under control, we can scale with VAs like super easy.
Cool. How about a round of applause? We'll be at happy hour if there's other questions. You'll be at happy hour for a minute? All right.